morning, friends. I'm really glad that you joined me again today. I'm really excited about our books. The books that I will be reading today are I Love My Daddy Because and Hannah and Hickory. Hannah and Hickory was one of my favorite books when I was growing up. Mo and Peso are here again, ready for their story time. They really loved it yesterday. And we'll just get right into it. All right, Trinity, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Come on over.
I love my daddy because I love my daddy because he plays with me. He keeps me safe and warm. He brings me dinner. He is big and strong. He takes naps with me. I love my daddy because he can build a house. He makes me laugh. He helps me reach things. He sings me songs. He takes me for a ride. He teaches me to be brave. He teaches me to be careful. I love my daddy because he plays hide and seek with me. He protects our family. He watches over me at night. I love my daddy, and my daddy loves me.
What are some of the reasons you love your daddy? I love my daddy because he's always there for me and he tells really funny jokes. All right, so our next book is for the little older children. It's called Hannah and Hickory, and it's all about bullying.
Farther than far, and to the very edge of the horizon, was a path bordered in lacy fern. If you walk down the path following the clouds that scuttled across the sky, you will find the land of Barely There. Barely There, a land where the birds reel on the wings above the weaver willow trees and warble their happy songs. A land where owls stay awake during the day to tell all who will listen about the delights of this wondrous land, Barely There. If you followed the clouds on their lazy journey, you would come to a place where they misted into rainbow spray. Here, you would find a schoolyard filled with the ringing laughter of children. It was in this old-fashioned schoolhouse that all the creatures from Barely There came when they were young to learn those things that must be learned. The rusted bell clanged in the much-painted tower of the school. The children giggled and pushed their way up the creaking steps and returned to the sometimes tedious world of books and blackboards. As the teacher, dear Miss Felicia Fuzzybottom, called the roll to see who was here and who was not, there came up the dusty road a family of 4 gypsy cats, a mother, a father, and 2 children. They were dressed in their finest, which, although clean and neat, was old and tattered. Gay, ragged patches of velvet and silk were sewn on knees of both parents and child alike. The children held back a step or two from their parents, as if a little reluctant on their new adventure to come. They clutched in their hands wrinkled bags filled with good things to eat, pencils and papers and a ruler too. This was the Hart family, who were newly moved to Barely There and had come to school for the very first time. Eyes peeked and peered from the schoolroom windows as the Harts walked up the road. With a clump of boots on a well-worn steps and a screech of an over-painted hinges, the Harts came to school with heads held high. Miss Fuzzybottom rushed to welcome them, and the Hart children were introduced to the class a little too loudly, it seemed to them. "This is my oldest son, Hickory, and his younger sister, Hannah," proudly proclaimed Father Hart. "We are newly moved here, and the children must learn what they can while they can." Chairs squeaked and necks screeched and stretched as everyone checked out the new arrivals. Satisfied that all was well, Father and Mother Hart left the children in the custody and care of the school and barely there. Now, this school, like other schools, had a rich kid, a big kid, and a bully. In this case, they were all rolled up into one rich, big bully named Bubba, a burly, furry groundhog of monstrous proportions. As the school bell clanged for recess, he took his group, which was most of the children in the school, to the far side of the playground. There they sat, or sprawled upon the ground, watching silently as Hannah and Hickory walked about scuffing dirt on old but well-shined shoes. No one laughed and no one talked. They all sat silently still, waiting for someone to make the first move. Finally, as his wont, Bubba called out, "Hey, you! Yeah, you! The new kids! Come here!" Shyly first, and then more boldly, the Hart children moved towards the group. When they had moved to the edge of the tightly knit group, Bubba asked, "So, why did you guys move here?" "Well," began Hannah shyly, "we're very poor." "Positive," interrupted Hickory as he pushed his sister aside. "Positive that this is the perfect place to live." Grunted Bubba as he continued his grilling. "So, where do you live?" Once again, Hannah started to answer, but was interrupted by her brother. "Well," he gushed, "we are very, very rich, and we live in a marvelous mansion just over there." Hickory waved his arm vaguely. "Rich, huh?" pressed Bubba, as he squinted his eyes skeptically. "If you're so rich, how come you're wearing ragged clothes with patches?" "What? These old things?" laughed Hickory. "We wear old clothes wherever we go to a new school, so the other kids won't feel bad that they aren't as rich as we are." All the children clustered around the Harts as Hickory babbled on about this and that. Bubba, having lost the first round, moved off to the side with the Crony brothers and watched with arched brows. "I don't like rich snobs," snorted Bubba as he threw himself down on the grass. "But Bubba," one of the Crony brothers crowed, "you always said that you were rich." "Yeah," mused Bubba as he collapsed his hands behind his head and watched as Hickory babbled on and on. "I am rich, and I live in a mansion too, but I am me and they are them, and that's a big difference." With that, he didn't wait for the school bell to ring, but went back to the schoolhouse nearly 5 minutes early. Bubba brooded the rest of the day as the Harts became the center of attention. It seemed Miss Fuzzybottom called on one of them every time they raised their hand, and she called on Bubba only once, the only time he didn't know the answer. Bubba was mad. Bubba didn't like to get mad. Bubba liked to get even. I think it's time for a little revenge." With that, he scrawled this note on a bit of lined paper. "Fellow students, after the final bell has rung, meet me beside the Weaver Willow. It's time we all welcome the Harts to the land of barely there. Don't say a word. Pass it on, Bubba." He carefully slipped the note to one of the cronies, and it began its ragged journey around the room, but not to Hannah or Hickory. Later that day, when school was out, all the children met at the Weaver Willow tree and gathered around Bubba. All, that is, except for Hannah and Hickory, who walked away on a dusty road. "Let's all follow the great Hannah and Hickory to their palatial castle in the woods." riled Bubba. There, we can paint some words of welcome on their castle walls. With that, he held up the paint and paintbrushes he had hidden behind his back. Now, it must be noted that some of the kids didn't want to go, and they left the school grounds straight away. But the bulk of Bubba's gang thought it was a great idea, and they set off in pursuit of Hannah and Hickory. As the Hart children walked home, Bubba and the other children followed behind him excitedly. With paint and brush in hand, they slipped from bush to bush, stopped only when they needed to stifle a giggle. They continued to shadow behind, even as Hannah and Hickory left the main road and walked down an old, well-worn path. The path twisted and turned, and the group had to scurry to keep well hidden. Hannah and Hickory disappeared from view as the path rose and then dropped over a hill. The gang regrouped, and Bubba ordered one of the Crony brothers to peek to see when it was safe to follow. It was but a moment later when the cronies returned, smiling ear to ear. "Hey, guess what, Bubba?" he squealed in delight. "The Harts don't live in some great palace. They live in Humble Hollow." "Shantytown," another cried, "where all the poor people live. Come on, let's all look." Yet another laughed. As one, they crept up the hill and peeked into the valley below. There, sure enough, was Humble Hollow, with its tumble-down shacks of cardboard and sticks and even a tent or two. "Come on," shouted the Crony brothers. "This is even better than a castle. Let's paint signs all over the shacks to let Hannah and Hickory know that we know," everyone else shouted. Everyone except for Bubba, who stood apart from the gang. "Hey, Bubba, let's go get even with the Harts," they jeered. But their leader didn't say a word. Softly but firmly, Bubba spoke. "No, you will all go from here and never tell anyone what you saw. Anyone, and I do mean anyone, who says anything or even giggles at Hannah or Hickory will have me to deal with. And I think you all know what that means." "But they lied, Bubba. They said they were rich, and they aren't. They deserve to be humbled," one of the cronies whined. "They deserve," growled Bubba, a little understanding. And then the great bully did something he had never done before. He spoke the truth. Well, I'm not rich either. I don't live in a big mansion. I live in Humble Hollow too." The other children just stared at Bubba in amazement. Oh, he was still big and burly, but he didn't quite seem the bully anymore. Quietly, his fuzzy little friends walked away and vowed not to say a word. Bubba stood there alone in the waning light of day and looked down on Humble Hollow. Humble Hollow, where weak trails of chimney smoke, starved for more wood, wove ghostly lines against the tattered pines. He sighed deeply, and then, with a lighter heart, he went down the hill to greet his new neighbors, Hannah and Hickory, in the land of Barely There. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. Let me know what you thought, and also let me know if you have any recommendations for books you'd like to hear. Again, we'll have this again at about 3:30. Hope to see you all then. Have a good day.